Well, good evening, good morning, good afternoon, depending on where you are. Thank you for this opportunity to be on this panel. I'll give a quick overview of how the National Parks Board of Singapore, NParks, in managing parks as public spaces, uses data and analytics for safe distancing with the ongoing global pandemic. So, okay, this is the outline of what I will talk about. I'll first set the context and talk briefly about the timeline on how the COVID-19 situation has developed in Singapore and how it has impacted us, as well as the challenges faced by NParks. I'll then share our response to the situation, focusing in particular on how NParks has leveraged on technology to overcome these challenges. I'll also share some of our plans to shape our future workforce and workplace with consideration of how to maintain a safe work environment in view of COVID-19. Finally, I'll share some personal reflections. Well, first, a bit about NParks. NParks is a national, it's a government agency which oversees greenery, park, and biodiversity management and conservation in Singapore. We manage the public greenery in the particular trees, which you see in Singapore, and more than 350 parks and gardens across Singapore. These are public spaces serving the recreational needs of residents. Our vision is to develop Singapore into a city in nature by restoring nature back in the city for livability, sustainability, and well-being of all residents. Well, here's a timeline of how events unfolded in Singapore. This is especially relevant for those of you in the audience who are not from Singapore. On 7 April, the circuit breaker, our version of the lockdown, was imposed where all non-essential services such as retail outlets and sports facilities were closed. Parks and gardens remain open, with certain facilities such as playgrounds, fitness corners, and shelters closed to allow safe distancing. 2 weeks later, these measures were further tightened with the closure of car parks and F&B outlets at parks. Members of the public were encouraged to exercise only in parks within their neighborhood. The circuit breaker has since been lifted on 1st June with the opening of playgrounds, fitness corners, and shelters, but patrols in parks and gardens to enforce safe distancing measures, particularly during weekends, have since intensified. Now, this look at the Google mobility trends after the circuit breaker. We see a sharp uptake of visits to the parks in Singapore. That's a bit of a surprise to us. And when we look at the Google search trends, we find an increase in interest in our parks. And in this slide, it shows the increase in interest in our nature reserves. And we compare that with the visitorship, and we also see corresponding increase in visitorship at these spaces. And this is one of the nature reserve called the Sungai Buloh Wetland Reserve. And we see a similar pattern in other areas, such as another nature reserve, the Bukit Timah Nature Reserve. So, sorry, just go back. Yeah. So implementing safe distancing measures in our parks, we have had to respond quickly to the evolving situation. While the majority of park visitors are complying with the safe distancing measures, there's a small segment which ignores these measures or even blatantly flout the regulations. This challenge is amplified by the large area of coverage we manage, more than 350 parks and gardens all over Singapore. Our staff have had to close off areas within parks on short notice to reduce crowdedness at these areas. When an area becomes overcrowded, safe distancing could not be observed. And as a peak of visitorship to our parks occur during weekends, our staff have had to perform weekend duties on a sustained basis. These duties are over and above their routine activities to manage and maintain parks. In addition, our staff have had to attend to critical greenery and park maintenance needs with severely reduced landscape workforce due to the outbreak of infections at the workers' dormitory. Finally, we also face the challenge of providing a safe work environment for our staff who have had to carry out their duties at the front line. We have had to adapt our response along the way and in alignment with other agencies carrying out safe distancing enforcement in other public spaces. We employ a large number of our staff to patrol gardens, parks, and nature reserves, and augment this with volunteers as well as temporary staff from airlines and hotels who are out of work at this moment. And for the past 5 to 7 years, NParks has been adopting technology and implementing digitalisation initiatives covering the full range of our work from tree management, park management, nature conservation, biodiversity management, to community engagement and industry development. The impetus is to strengthen the science behind our work, enhance the efficiency and effectiveness of our operations, and improve public engagement. One of the key steps we've taken was to consolidate all our geospatial data on a common platform. This has greatly facilitated data sharing, not just within the organization, but also with other agencies and with the public. So because of our prior digitalization efforts, when COVID-19 hit Singapore, we were able to quickly adapt one of our apps into what we call the Safe Distance at Parks app. The app essentially informs public of the visitorship at the various hotspots in our gardens and parks, so that the public can stay away when a particular site becomes too crowded. The app draws real-time inputs from our officers on the ground, as well as from CCTVs and aerial drones. It allows visitors to find parks near them where they can exercise. We leverage on technology to augment or replace the physical deployment of our staff on the ground. Our officers fly aerial drones to monitor crowd levels for areas that are challenging to obtain ground observation quickly. We use CCTVs extensively for the surveillance and monitoring of hotspots in our gardens and parks. Video analytics are used for people counting to ascertain the crowdedness of these sites. We monitor the adherence to safe distancing using video analytics. We also use analytics to monitor car park usage. We collaborated with GovTech, our government agency overseeing ICT, to deploy Spot, the robot, which you see at the bottom left of the screen, which can perform people counting and monitor safe distancing. This robot can navigate the more challenging terrain in a park setting. The various inputs from CCTVs, drones, and car park management systems are put together to automatically update the visitorship level on the Safe Distance at Park portal. We also developed an internal portal where staff could view the various footages that are captured for them to take appropriate actions to maintain safe distance. This system, together with sensors installed on the ground, helped to significantly reduce the need for physical deployment of our staff. On a daily basis, our contractors undertake greenery maintenance works for parks all over Singapore. Thus, we have started to develop a contractor fleet management system which tracks the location of our contractor vehicles. In addition, video cameras are installed on these vehicles as well as other contractor equipment to allow live monitoring of the works on the ground. In response to COVID-19, we're exploring the use of video analytics to remotely detect breaches of safe distancing by the workers. Our landscape contractors are also required to use wearables to alert workers on the spot when safe distance is breached. The COVID-19 pandemic has highlighted the need to make our workplace safer for our workforce going forward. It also provided the impetus to quicken the pace of digitalization to bring about this transformation. In this regard, I will next share some examples of our digitalization initiatives that transform the landscape sector. MParks is developing a digital twin of all our trees. This will transform our tree management, allowing staff to carry out tree inspection virtually, reduce time spent on site, and prioritize the time to tree inspection tasks that have to be carried out in the field. Through the use of modeling, we are able to predict the structural stability of trees under different wind conditions. This allows us to use physical intervention, such as pruning, to enhance the structural stability of a tree. We are also developing a remote warning system to monitor tree tilt by installing wireless tilt sensors on our trees. A warning message will be sent to our staff when there is a pronounced lean of a tree. Our staff can then go to the site and to investigate and take mitigating measures. We are employing a suite of sensors to improve situational awareness of our park managers. These sensors will send alerts to staff and contractors to carry out maintenance of our toilets, waste bins, and lights. Data are also collected and analyzed for preventive maintenance to be carried out. Remote real-time tracking of grass cutting activities is now possible with this system, which was co-developed with GovTech. It cuts down on the need to perform site inspection by contractors, supervisors, and our staff. Fire risk in our parks and green spaces is something which we monitor particularly during periods of dry spells. This information is monitored on the fire risk map, which is updated daily with inputs from the National Environment Agency. Based on the identified risk areas, targeted interventions can then be carried out. We're deploying a forest fire monitoring system. This reduces the need to physically deploy a large number of staff to patrol and conduct surveillance at our nature reserves, particularly during dry spells. The system comprises cameras mounted on high points around our nature reserves. These cameras incorporate algorithms developed to detect smoke and fires and send alerts to our staff upon detection. We also install video and camera traps in our nature reserves to remotely record sightings to support our surveys and studies of native biodiversity. This is a video recording of the rarely sighted Raffles banded langur. These are some other interesting sightings from the cameras. We're implementing these initiatives to enhance productivity, reduce reliance of manual labor, and allow remote working arrangements. COVID-19 has forced us to think about how we should structure our workforce to be more resilient and how we can make our work environment safer. To this end, we're working in the Institute of Higher Learning and industry partners to transform the landscape sector to be future ready in the post-COVID. Finally, my reflection. COVID-19 has actually challenged us in unprecedented ways. But I think the crisis situation has brought out the best in our people and agencies, as seen in the can-do and will-do collaborative spirit. The crisis also affirmed our approach to be digital to the core, and Park started on this approach to comprehensively map out the plans to digitalize all the key streams of our work. This is a long journey we started 6 years ago. This crisis has strengthened our resolve to continue in this journey. In designing our system, versatility and practicality have been two key considerations, and we implement this in steps so that staff can see the utility of these tools and embrace these technologies. We also need to be adaptive and adopt an agile mindset. This allows us to be able to quickly adapt our system to answer new challenges at hand. Finally, we are mindful of the need to lock in technology gains and continue our push in digitalization and OpTex integration. Well, that's a quick overview, and I can take questions during the panel discussion. Thank you.